Deep. Oh my God, Eric. Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. All right.
We call that technique ASMR on the channel. Folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. I'm here with Dr. Eric Helms, PhD in sport and exercise science, and a natural pro bodybuilder, among many other things. He also competes in strongman and weightlifting and in powerlifting. He is probably one of the most preeminent bodybuilding historians that I personally know. And so we just talk nerd bodybuilding stuff and look at mostly naked physiques. I think it's a fine way to spend some time.
100%.
Yeah, no, great.
100%.
We're leaning into it, sweet. Eric is doing his leg workout today in his actual real plan that he actually trains with. He is coming out of a show prep phase, so he's sort of massing back up to a decent body fat level.
Yeah, about 12 and a half weeks post season.
Getting some muscle along the way. And this is his workout. He organized it. I'm gonna throw a couple of tips to him. We talked before, he might be open-minded to a few little RP leg press tips. But other than that, we're gonna walk around. I'm gonna be the student today, not the teacher. I'm gonna look, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna try to see things in his genital area for later so I can jerk off. What? Let's do it.
Yeah, probably gonna be working with like 250.
Kilos?
Yeah, which is what their plates are in.
Let's try some RP tips and we'll see how far you get.
We shall see. Not a whole lot of room to sit with the hair.
Correct. So you just sit down on that. So this is flush to your lower back and ass. So basically that stuff's at the bottom, your ass is right on top of it. Perfect.
So we're good?
That's it?
Yep. Okay.
Are you calf raising?
No.
You leg press like that? You must be crazy. All right. So why don't you take your heels and put them all the way up so that they're just at the borderline there.
Like here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
A wider stance with your feet. Toes pointed much more out. So this wide enough of a stance, but even more out on the toes. Even more, even more. And then as you come down, try to imagine taking your knee and putting it into your shoulder here as you push your tummy out and expand your chest to get a psychotic amount of hip and knee flexion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Go a little lower and a little slower. Yes. Try to hold at the bottom for 2 seconds, tummy out. Yes, in that ultra depth. Perfect.
So we're kicking things off with leg press. Very quad dominant. When I travel, I don't normally bring my belt and shoes with me, but fortunately, the homies got me helped. We got belt, we got shoes. The idea here is to get as much quad dominance out of this. Of course, you're still gonna get glutes, adductors, because you're extending your hip and your knee. We're gonna start with leg press. We've got 4 sets, and we're doing these no higher than 8 reps. Not trying to get a ton of cardiorespiratory fatigue out of this. The goal, ideally, is that we're gonna antagonist paired set this with hamstring curls. So we're gonna choose the hamstring curl that is ideally gonna give us the biggest stretch. Ideally, I would do a seated hamstring curl, but I think they don't have one here, so we'll see what we got.
Because of the lever arm here, it's lever arm maximum to gravity here, and it gets much easier at the top. So it is actually accentuated at the stretch.
Yeah.
And since you're a tall guy, if you put this all the way here, I mean, like, that's not terrible at all.
I think it's gonna be good, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think probably 2 plates on here would be perfect.
Dope.
Yeah.
Big chest, big tummy. Let the quads do the work.
So the ideal goal here is we want to hit somewhere between 5 to 8 reps, and we want to conclude at an 8 RPE on the first set. When we did our upper body day, we were finishing at 9 on those first ones, but when you're generating this much fatigue with big compound movements, training big muscles, you want a little more buffer so you can actually get through the whole session. You don't want the cardiorespiratory fatigue to prevent you from being able to do everything you need to do. Because I have a relatively high volume today. This is not just a leg day, it's also my arm day. So this is legs and arms.
Legs and arms.
That's right.
Limbs day.
Limbs day, exactly. Still a body part split. I'm still a bro. Just limbs. All right, let's get into it.
Oh, fuck yeah. Super deep. Control. Fuck yeah, Eric. Holy shit.
Perfect. That's 5 reps. Conservative 8 RPE, but I think that's a good place to start. And we'll go from there.
Do you want me to take any load off of this?
I think this is perfect. 4 sets of 5. Great. We'll let the RPE jump up as we go. RIR lower, if you will. Now we got hamstring curls, slightly higher rep range. This one, we're aiming to hit a 1 RIR on our first set. 4 sets again, letting it accumulate. Using a double progression model with an RPE attached. So once I hit a certain top rep range at the target RPE, that's when I can go up and load next training session. So if I'm working 6 to 10, first set RPE of 9 or 1 RIR, if I can get 10 reps at a load at a 1 RIR, next session, that's when I go up.
Go, go, go.
Nice.
All right, first pairing down, 3 more sets of both, and we're there.
I love that the lower reps here let you cardiorespiratorily be able to do the superset. If you did a set of 15, you would just be throwing up right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's why I cap it at 8 reps on leg press.
Yep.
You know, in that meta-regression by Robinson and colleagues on failure, they did an analysis which included load as a moderator. And they found that the effect of going close to failure went away when you're talking about loads of about 80% or heavier, which is right around an 8 RM. Meaning that 5 reps, roughly a 3 RIR, on average, should still be just as productive as, say, doing 10 reps to failure.
Eric, do you suppose the mechanism there,
Yeah.
is that 80% plus is sufficient to recruit most of the large motor units, and then they're just like, we're here. They show up rep 1 to the party?
Absolutely. When you look at some of the data on peak amplitude, which isn't perfect for motor unit recruitment, but I think
For
in
EMG.
isolation, when you're looking at that data, you see right around 80%. You don't see higher amplitudes, and you're probably producing more force through increased rate coding, meaning that everything's getting turned on when you go heavy enough. Then it's just a matter of making the set last long enough to get a stimulative effect. And because you're using a heavier load, reps are going to be slower. So it's going to last a little bit longer than you think about it otherwise. So what I like to do for compound lower body movements especially is train them in, say, the 4 to 8 rep range most of the time and stay submaximal, at least upon your initial sets. And those are probably going to be just as effective as doing 12 reps to failure, but they're not going to put you in a massive cardiorespiratory sink to where you are just huffing and puffing like at the cardio session. All right, really just focusing on the bottom range there, because even though you may feel that cramping sensation on a hamstring curl at the top, that's not really where the most stimulative effective part of that movement is going to be. And that's sometimes where chasing sensation is not always indicative of what's going to give you the best stimulus, but certainly you can feel how heavy it is at the bottom. I really like that machine.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that chasing the sensation isn't always right? It's a categorically correct statement.
Correct.
But I think that sometimes people chase a sensation and don't look kind of at a conglomerate of multiple sensations that, when taken together, may be more indicative. Like, you feel a cool contraction at the top of a hamstring curl, but it doesn't typically result set for set with as much perturbation. Like, your hamstrings don't get as crampy and as weird. They're not as weak. They don't get as much DOMs. They don't get as big of a pump. If you get that deep stretch, RDLs, etc., good hamstring curl machine like that, you're like, not only do you feel it in a set as a perceptively deep stretch, you don't get that crunch, fine. But afterwards, you're like, holy fucking shit, like, my shit is fucked up, and that may last for days. Whereas if you really focus on machines with a crunch, like at the time, you're like, yeah, man, we're getting the fucking peak contraction. And then just not much happens. And you're like, did I really do a whole lot? And the answer scientifically is like, yeah, no, you didn't do as much as if you accentuated the stretch.
And those 2 really important things you said there. One is you started talking about not just the sensation during training, but also after, delayed onset muscle soreness.
At multiple time scales.
Yes, and as well, you discussed RDLs, because RDLs will give you incredible DOMs in your hamstrings.
Yes.
But you don't really feel a hamstring intense contraction sensation while doing them.
Not at all. But the stretch is killer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Deep. Oh my God, Eric. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
There we go. All right.
We call that technique ASMR on the channel.
So it is really about paying attention to indicators over multiple time courses.
Yes.
And you know, if you're doing a whole bunch of peak contraction hamstring training, yeah, it'll feel really crazy and crampy in the session, but you're probably not going to experience a whole lot of DOMs comparatively to an RDL.
Totally.
And not that DOMs equals growth, but it certainly tells you if you got muscle damage in an area, what area you got trained.
DOMS is a great stimulus proxy. It could be too much stimulus.
It could be.
It could be like you're getting DOMS so much that your training is not frequent enough to do it.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to make the argument that like, oh, like you got massive DOMs, it didn't stimulate any growth. Like how?
Yeah.
How? A lot of stimulus was driven to that muscle.
That's
and
right.
so if you train 3 or 4 times a week, you may not get any DOMs. But if you're doing the kinds of exercises that if you did them for higher volume would dependably get you DOMs, you know you're doing kind of the right thing. DOMs
Yeah.
is like a little a canary in a coal mine. We don't
Well
fucking
said.
make coal out of the canary, but there's a fucking purpose for that shit.
Agree. And then you just have to make sure that it's not getting in the way, that you heal on
That's
time.
it. Exactly. Yes. Finish strong, Eric. Control that last eccentric like it's the first one. Finish. Finish. That's it. Control. Beautiful.
All right. That was a very challenging 8. I expect
I might drop 7 reps on the next set, we'll see. You know, Mike, another thing I really like about the RP strategies on leg press is they pair really well when you're trying to do low reps on a leg press, because as much as I was saying, it's really helpful to do slightly higher RIR, low reps to keep the cardiorespiratory fatigue down. Heavy weights on leg press or any kind of lower body compound make you feel like your head's gonna explode.
Yeah.
They're challenging in other ways, even though they won't gas you.
Yes.
But if you can reduce the load a little bit, then you reduce that a little bit as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So finding a way to make it as hard as possible, but not for hard's sake, but still getting that stimulus to
Yes.
the target musculature, and then loading it as heavy as you can with those.
Yeah.
You find that nice balance of this load does not feel like it's gonna crush me.
Right.
It's
Zaps
still,
your fucking quads though.
yeah, and it's still close to my 5 rep max by my 4th set, as we're gonna see here. Targets the muscle group and allows me to do
Yes.
these antagonist paired sets.
Yes. Big push. Follow through. Take a second here, Eric. Yep. Big load up. Big push. Finish. Finish. Finish.
There it is. I'd say it was a 9.5 RPE. It's a good place to stop.
You're all done on leg
All done.
press?
Yes,
and
sir.
then one more set on the leg curl?
One set on leg
Perfect.
curls.
I'll take care of these weights for
Thank you, sir.
Cardiorespiratory fatigue isn't by itself necessarily a bad thing, but it's like the cost of a meal at a restaurant. This shit better be fucking worth it. If I'm paying $15 for a sushi roll, I shit better have sex on the way into my mouth and through my stomach and sex out of my ass on the way back out. For $3, I'm perfectly fine with just a sushi roll. $15, I better do something. You got an exercise that fucks you up cardiorespiratorily, it better give you the gnarliest pump and fucking DOMs and disruption and notable growth month after month of doing it to where you're just like, dude, this is the trump card I pull out to fucking grow. Then it can fuck you up. But if a movement, imagine a wide stance sumo squat for high reps, you would cardio your fucking mind out of your ass. And then what do you get for it? Slower adductors, your knees hurt, your quads aren't even pumped. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and as someone with a strength athlete background, I'm by no means strong for powerlifters, but I am reasonably strong for natural bodybuilders.
Sure.
So if I could avoid having to load as much on an RDL or a leg press or something like that, that's better. That's one of the downsides of strength, if you will.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, people often say, hey, listen, isn't it good to have a strength phase before hypertrophy phase because I can get stronger for the hypertrophy phase? And Jared and I always like, let's open up the ontological kind of paradigm underneath. Why are we trying to get stronger for hypertrophy? And like, well, because I can lift more load. I'm like, so why is that good? And they're like, well, it targets the muscle better. Like, does it? Or is it the muscle's maximum internal ability to produce load that really stimulates muscle growth? And it's like, oh yeah, it's the latter. So what do you get out of the strength thing? You get coordination, you get some athleticism, but also you get that in these hypertrophy ranges too. It's exactly specific. So strength phases are great for taking variation into your program, for deburdening from high volume, getting a little sensitivity back, get ultra strong for bodybuilding. It's like a bit of a misnomer there, I think. There are some cases for it, but generally speaking, it's like just focus on doing your bodybuilding stuff to challenge the musculature and get strong in those rep ranges where you get the hypertrophy in it. Most of the green check marks are checked. What do you think about that?
I would agree. I think people have to remember that the relationship between strength and size, right? So getting stronger is an indication that whatever stimulus you're providing is sufficient for adaptation, right? But that doesn't mean, oh, I need to chase strength to get bigger. It means that strength is indication that you're doing something right in the gym, not necessarily a goal to chase. And I would even say this rate of strength adaptations are not that indicative, at least in the kind of time scales we pay attention to hypertrophy. You just want to see it clustering up so that you know what you're doing is a stimulus. So yeah, I think that's something that we kind of got wrong in prior years.
It's so tempting.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be nice if we had a synergy between the sports where everyone could benefit from everyone else's training? Bodybuilders doing sumo and weightlifting, you know, to enhance their bodybuilding. It just ain't so.
All right, we left that one in the tank
because I wouldn't have got a full range or even a partial. So I went 8, 8, 8, 7, started on a 9 RPE.
I'll get it, Eric, I'll get it.
Or a 1 RIR, finished down 1 rep and got a 0 RIR. And that's why I like to use a dynamic double progression based on first set performance, because you can't always predict what that fatigue pattern is going to be like. And even when you can for yourself, if you're a coach, you're programming for other people, very different patterns, different muscle groups for different people with different training backgrounds. So it really has to do with, can you hit the target on the first set with that load? Fatigue is what it is, and then you can progress to the next session. Now we got one we're not gonna do an antagonist paired set with.
Because fuck that.
Because we're doing a rear foot elevated Bulgarian split squat, and we're gonna take off the squat shoes for this.
Okay.
Now the reason why we have a high back foot is because we're getting a little bit of extra credit out of our Bulgarian split squat. So the goal is to target the glutes primarily in this. The way we're gonna do that, I'll put this foot forward for you to see, is that we're gonna step forward pretty far, right? We don't want much forward knee travel, so it's a lot more into the glute, pushing through the heel. And I'm gonna be bent forward more like a low bar squat, so we're getting additional stretch on the glute. And we're just gonna focus in this range here. However, Bulgarian split squats aren't just working your front leg. My back leg is pushing and is stabilizing, and my rec fem is in a pretty big stretch here now.
Eric, I can think of 2 reasons why this targets the rec fem especially well in the context of a normal program. Reason number 1 is mostly you don't do any of this shit.
Correct.
Like you would do leg press, squat, hack squat, mostly lunge. They typically just don't even hit the rec fem because it runs into passive and active insufficiency depending on how you do things. The other reason I can think of is even leg extensions, which nominally hitting it in a pre-shortened position because you're closed in with your hips here and there's not much going on.
Exactly.
It's actually active insufficiency, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a unique exercise that really allows you to stretch the living dog shit out of it and get you that fucking middle quad.
Correct.
Yeah. Anything else that is a benefit there for that?
I think that's an excellent summary. And the 2 exercises that I have where I am really focusing on that middle quad is I do this, and then on my other leg day, which I actually do leg extensions on a cable stack. Cuff at the ankle, cable here, holding on to supports here, standing leg extensions right here. So you're actually in hip extension, stretching the rec fem, which is a hip flexor, attaching on the front of the hip while you're doing a leg extension. So it's basically like if you were to think about doing a leg extension on a normal machine, but you're lying all the way back. So you're getting a nice stretch.
Hey man, if your friends are interested, I got more.
I actually normally travel with liquid cocaine, but I forgot.
Yep. I thought I was buying a chalk ball on Amazon and they sent me this bag of cocaine. I was like, thanks, fellas.
All right. Low reps, because you got to do both sides.
You're kidding. You don't let it go?
Nope.
You're a fucking warrior. Holy shit.
Just doing 3 sets on this. We got the meat of our work in those first 2 exercises. Now we're just getting the extra glute emphasis, a little bit of rec fem. Yeah, that's good. All right, one more set there.
Finish strong, Eric. Yes, easy money. Yep, finish strong. Hell yes.
All right. That's fun. Okay. All right. It's all downhill from here. Another thing I like about this workout with arms at the end, you can frame it psychologically two ways. No wrong answer. You either have to earn your arm day with a sick leg day, or your sick leg day is rewarded by an arm pump.
Give me a hell yeah.
You gotta love it. That's psychology 301, not even 101, baby. Normally, on this day, I would do a back extension, just standard 45-degree back extension. And the reason is, when Brian Miner and I constructed this individualized program, it's because I got 2 leg days. We're trying to bring up my legs along with pretty much everything. And one of the foci was my glutes specifically. And my second leg day, which is later in the week, I train legs on Tuesday and Friday. I need to be fully recovered for that session. The main moneymaker for the glutes today is that Bulgarian split squat with a little bit of leg press. So if we want to get more volume, which we do, we also want to make sure it's not to the point where I'm getting DOMs on that next day. So we want something that fatigues in a shortened position. Back extension, when you're fully up, that's when the lever arm is longest, but also when the glute's the shortest. So it's a way of getting productive volume that's probably not going to cause as much DOMs. So even though we have data right now indicating that the more lengthened a muscle is in exercise, where tension is highest, the greater the stimulus, doesn't mean there's no place for exercise that don't fit that bill, because you only have so much capacity to train. So there's a role for these lower stimulus, but also lower fatigue inducing exercises when you just want to nudge up the stimulus a little bit. Now, unfortunately, there's no back extension here. So we're looking for an alternative. And when you're in a situation where you want to swap out an exercise, it's very much dependent upon your goals. So if you had a back extension in your program because you're trying to bring up your erectors and you want to get additional hamstring work, hip thrust might not be a good choice because the knees are bent, so the hamstrings are shortened, and there's also not really much erectors in this at all. It's very much a glute exercise. That's my primary focus. If you, for example, are like, oh, they don't have a back extension and I'm trying to train my erectors, you might do something like a Smith machine good morning, right? Or some other type of exercise that is more focused on the erectors rather than something that's more focused on the glutes. So just things to consider when you're trying a different exercise. So this bad boy, this is a hip thrust machine. Hip thrust, I really do like if you're trying to target the glutes. It's a very specific movement, very specific tool in the toolbox that for me today happens to be a good fit. All right, like I said, these are hardest at the top. So good way not to get a whole lot of DOMs out of this. We'll probably need to load this up with either 2 or 3 plates. Every one of these machines is pretty different, so you gotta feel it out. So, not an antagonist paired set, just a useful superset that doesn't get in the way of itself. With the hip thrusts, we're getting our calves in. And then once we get these 2 knocked out, it's 3 sets there, 4 sets here. Then we'll get the arms in.
Then the real workout starts.
I was telling our dear viewers that there's 2 psychological ways of framing this workout. You either get an awesome leg day reward of training arms, or you have to earn your arm day by training legs.
Yes, yes. Fuck yeah, Eric. Show off that extension at the top. Hips reel through. There it is. Hips through. Yep.
All right. And we are not thinking about doing length and partials on this. We are doing the full range because, again, we're tapping into potentially not causing or causing DOMs to that next leg day. So this is a little bit more volume, a little bit more stimulus, just topping off the gas tank, but not causing risk of RDLs going poorly on Friday. All right, calf raises. And we'll just stretch for a bit. Just until it gets too uncomfortable, I think I'm gonna slip off. Oh, here we go.
Finish. Yes.
Yeah, it gets hard at the top.
Yeah.
And here we are.
You got a racket now.
Stuck at the bottom. No, we're just gonna escape it. I have a Dr. Mike to do that for me.
Are you, this is your last set?
No, I got one more.
Got it. I'll take
I've just
care of
created
it.
problems for you.
No worries. You just go do calves. You'll be all spick and span.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Helms
I appreciate it.
and my man.
Don't have a butler, I have a Dr. Mike.
Finish. Finish. Rack.
Oh, okay. That's all the hard leg work done.
Now it's time for the real leg workout.
Now it's time for the brain work. Can I get myself out of this? Oh yeah,
It
brain
did
still
take
works.
a long time.
No glucose left in the brain cells.
Because you haven't started eating primal and haven't taught your body to operate on ketones.
Ketones.
The brain's truly preferred fuel in nature.
You know what? I've heard there's even ketone supplements.
I heard they're in nature as well. The cavemen used to pluck them off the trees.
Yes, the ketone trees.
Yes, the raspberry ketone trees.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then we stretch. Until I think I'm gonna fall off. Get ready to catch.
Nice. Jesus.
Yeah, okay. Our next one, which we're gonna rest on, I'm gonna go until I'm barely getting any range. So it'll be pass failure, partials, and then try to keep stretching afterwards. Because again, only got 9 sets of calves. And the things I've done to myself to grow my calves, they have a very, very efficient recovery timeline. I used to do 4 sets 5 times a week, stretching them also for an hour a day in an orthotic boot. It worked. Don't recommend it, but.
So there's been a kind of a debate among people who know things for the past, I guess several decades, or really for the past decade,
Yeah.
about if you're dosing someone a certain amount of number of sets per week for hypertrophying a certain muscle, and they're not growing as well as they would like, or maybe not measurably, is the answer to increase the dose or to decrease the dose. Hypothetically, I mean, theoretically, both can be an answer, but it seems like the average dosing we've been putting into people, something like 5 to 10 to 15 work sets per week, is on the very low end of what a non-systemically fatiguing workout program can handle per muscle, so that most people, 2/3 versus 1/3 roughly, if you're doing around 10 sets per week for a muscle, increasing is probably closer to your maximum adaptive volume, where you grow the best, rather than further away. However, there are ways to tell. One is, if you're training a muscle with, say, 10 sets per week, and someone's like, you getting really fucked up, it's really beating your ass, you're like, not really, man.
Yeah.
I recover really quickly. I don't even really get sore. Not a big strength drop off. Perceptively in the session, like, I'm training, but they're not like blown up. I can't limp, I don't have to limp away. Whereas on the other side, if you're training and let's say you're doing RDLs and a really well-designed leg curl machine, 8 sets of hamstrings a week, someone's like, you got to do more. You're like, dude, I cannot recover from more. This is all I can do. So based on your recovery status and your perception of stimulus, you can make an educated guess as to whether your next move is a marginal experiment to increase volume or an experiment to marginally decrease volume for some time. What do you think about that, Aaron?
I think that's very reasonable. I think a couple things. One, there's obviously a huge interaction with sets per week and the proximity to failure that you're training them at, and the exercise selection, which you hinted at. So, 10 sets of lying leg curls on a machine that has a shitty force curve to a 2 to 3 RIR is not the same as 10 sets of RDL to failure.
I'd like to see someone do that. No, I actually would like to see someone do that.
There you go. So I think right there we have to acknowledge that, your mileage may vary, and it may not have to do with your mileage, it may have to do with how you're counting your miles.
Yeah.
The second component is that while we have good meta-analytic data on how much volume people respond to well on average, we don't have good data on high enough sample sizes to really tell us about individual differences and changes in volume.
To paint a meaningful distribution on an individual basis.
So it comes down to some of these markers you use in practice. So for example, there is one study, I think Scarpelli, where they did this 20% individualized volume increase. And there's some other secondary analyses where they look at volume increases relative to baseline. But I think another analysis, and those indicate exactly what you said on average. If you had to roll the dice at Vegas, where we are,
hey,
at Torture Gym, you would.
It's also a casino.
Yes, it is. That's not true. But like if you were doing, let's say, 10 sets, those studies that we just talked about would indicate that you would bet on an increase being the answer if you had no other data, but you do have other data. However, DeMoss and colleagues, they had a cool study, 2019, within participant design, leg extension, single leg press on both sides. One group, or one leg, I should say, doing 15 sets, the other one doing 6 to 9. And there was almost a 50-50 split, just looking at the raw baseline change on whether 6 to 9 sets or 15 sets was better, with a better breakdown being a third, no meaningful difference that we could tell statistically with confidence, responded the same, and then a third were better on lower volume, a third were on higher volume. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 6 on a dice, on a 6-sided die.
That's a big difference. For years, I've been, people have tried to describe me as, they'll see my RP hypertrophy app workouts on Instagram, and because I do all of the lifts or most of the lifts for 1 set each in the video. The last video is a scroll through the app, and it'll be like, you did 8 sets for legs. I thought you were the volume guy. I'm like, I'm a find your own maximum recoverable and maximum adaptive volume guy.
Yeah.
Could be 40 sets a week for some muscle, could be 5 sets a week for some muscle. That is going to be super individual, which is why proxies that you don't have a lot of formal empirical support, they're going to make so much sense based on everything else we do that I'm comfortable using them now while we don't have direct science yet, versus using what? Nothing at all? That's kind of fucking weird, right? To just be like, it doesn't matter. Soreness, fatigue, progression, none of that matters. Just do things. It's like, I think we can do a little better than that.
And ultimately, you have to make a decision.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So I think you and I, over the years, we probably differ a little bit on which proxies we favor and what combination and order. Yeah. But the reason why we differ is because we are speaking about a lack of empirical data.
Yes.
So for me, I use a very similar kind of if-then approach. Like if you look at the muscle and strength pyramids in my books, I have a flow chart.
I know that flow chart very well.
And it appears there a couple times, and it basically says, okay, do you have everything else outside of the gym taken care of? And then are you recovering from both an objective standpoint, performance-wise, and subjective? Which I think is really important, because you will tend to break before your objective strength actually starts to decrease.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you need both. So I don't disregard DOMs like we talked about earlier. I don't disregard sensation, whether that's a pump or otherwise, but I do tend to really bias progression. And the one way where I really like to focus on progression is that if you are progressing with stable technique over reasonable timeframes, I'm pretty loath to increase volume, even if you feel like you're not actually seeing progress. Because to me, that indicates there's enough going on for an adaptation, and somewhere in that milieu is probably muscle growth, at least on some time scale. And the other reason is that I have personal experience with some clients and myself that your ability to handle volume and what was actually sufficient to stimulate growth can sometimes be quite disparate. I think my calves are a good example of that. I did need to do a lot to make them grow, but I have also seen, now that I'm doing a lot more length and partials, stretching integrated into the sessions, I feel like I've made some progress post-season, which could be confounded by the fact that I'm eating, with just 9 sets, when I was previously doing like 20 sets plus stretching. And now I'm doing 9 length and partial sets to failure with integrated stretching.
So much more effective. It might be the same total amount of stimulus.
Yeah, but also I am still no DOMs. I feel like I could easily double this. However, I don't know that it would be beneficial.
Here's another thing. If you learn that you can double your volume, but that gives you a 1.05%, 105% increase, 5% increase of a relative muscle gain over time. Like instead of gaining a centimeter on your calves over a year, you gain 1/20th of a centimeter. You have to ask yourself a very serious question. Is the marginal value of these extra sets really worth the systemic fatigue and the time for me to get my calves that much?
And also, not that there's a direct link between the amount of work you do and injury, But we have to acknowledge we do count injury in number of hours, like number of per 1,000 or 100 training hours.
It's a machine. You do this long enough, some probability of bad shit happening goes up.
I mean, to some degree. Like, I don't like the machine analogy because you also build tolerance to it.
It's not an analogy. We're literally machines.
Yeah. We are cars. All right, so let's rev these engines.
There you go, Eric. Let's link up to that pain, baby. This is pain time.
And now you just have to think happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts.
Remember to put that there.
Keep those knees extended. There you go.
Okay, started to lose my balance.
That's an unhelpful hint.
Yes. And legs are done. And what's the reward, Mike?
Get to birthday, no. Dinner, no. Arms party. Show them what the fuck is going on. Look at
That's
the
what's
bicep
happening.
striations.
Let's go. Staggered stance, keeping the hips forward. You let the arms trail behind you so you're in as much shoulder extension as possible. So you're getting a stretch on the bicep just from the joint position. And you're also actually letting yourself get into as much elbow extension as you can. I have very little, that's why I'm a terrible weightlifter. And then curling just to about here. So we're really emphasizing that lengthened position. Now, if you've never done lengthened position bicep curls like this, and let's say you're used to doing 2 sessions where you get 6 to 8 sets of arms per week, you throw these in, you'll be surprised how effective they are. And you may need to do a lot less volume. These are easily my favorite bicep exercise. Yeah?
Yeah, hell yeah. Finish. Finish.
And then the control, all right.
12?
That was 12, I think, yeah. Same idea here. We're choosing an exercise that puts the tricep in a lengthened position, or at least the long head of it, which crosses the shoulder joint. So we're here, overhead, extending, and just kind of cutting off that top portion. So we're spending most of our time focused on that lengthened position. We're gonna antagonist paired set these, save some time.
Yes. Control.
All right. 3 more.
Eric, what would you say if that was one clip lower so you could get active tension at the bottom instead of hitting the support? Would that be cool?
I think it would be good because I was still kind of relaxing into it as I was going. Thank you, Mike.
It's when you have 2 OCD sports scientists watching each other train, like, you could get another half-inch of range of motion at the bottom.
I will take it every time. Every half extra inch I can get. Once we finish this pairing, we're gonna do 1 drop set on triceps in a more normal, less lengthened position. I'm just gonna drop 4 plates, 4 sets to failure, because according to my dear esteemed colleagues, I need to bring up my triceps more than my biceps. Just getting a little extra.
Fuck yeah. Finish.
I finished.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Bottom stretch felt good.
Felt fantastic.
Yeah. I'm living vicariously through it. There it is. Finish.
Yeah. That's what they call 8 reps at an 11 RPE. And for the old people who know Spinal Tap, mine goes to 11.
Hell yes. Fuck yeah, Eric.
All right. Now I should have started here, so I could have gone 4 to 3, and then just been able to be efficient with my time. Tricep, bicep, tricep, bicep, tricep, bicep, tricep finished.
Guys, obsessive compulsive personality disorder is DSM-5 categorized. Look it up. You don't want to end up like Eric and I, making sure the collars fit just right, everything times perfectly, precisely 1,259 inserts and retractions of a penis into my hand to make sure I ejaculate. Anything up or down one or this is just not.
Once we finish 2 more sets here, I'll catch my breath, and then we'll do a drop set, tricep push downs, something that's not lengthened, get a little extra volume. Tomorrow is an off day. So the split is chest and back dominant upper, legs and arms off, which you'll need after the 2 workouts I just did. Then we come back and do a comprehensive upper body session. By that point, you recovered from the legs I did today, comprehensive lower body, and then we finish the week on Saturday. So we're training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, doing a shoulders and arms dominant upper body session. As you might have recalled from the prior video, my legs, they've always been a little bit bigger than my upper body, whether that's because I did martial arts and track and field as a young guy, or just genetics, I don't know.
I believe the genetics much more than I believe training history.
Sure.
I can get into that ad nauseum later, but I do think it's a mostly genetic thing.
Sure. So yeah, I have to do a lot of upper body work to have top down, up the top symmetry.
So if you just gassed everything, you'd be like a fucking really lower body heavy kind of guy.
Yeah. And that was, if people were to take a look at my, say, 2011 season, legs were similar size, upper body was substantially smaller. And that was when I was still following a very symmetrical program.
2001 season?
2011.
Okay.
2001, I graduated high school. I mean, I could run a good 400 meters, but that's about it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And we're gonna try another one. And we tried.
LOL.
Ooh. All right. Oh boy. All right. This is the fun one where it is all up here. Not really, but you got to tell yourself that.
How many do you want?
As many as I possibly can.
10. 5 more. 11. 12. Biggest partials you can bite off. 13. 14. 15. Finish.
All right. And that's legs and arms. And now you just decide to go out and have as many people see you in cutoff as possible. Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the whole purpose of the sport.
Let's go to the club. That's right.
Eric.
Sir.
Huge honor.
My pleasure.
To watch you train at your prime, really. I want to learn more about evidence-based stuff.
Yeah.
I want scientific programming for bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Where do I go to learn about stuff like that?
All right. Well, you got options depending upon whether you want me to live on the street or whether you want to pay my mortgage and help me not live on the street. You can follow our YouTube, youtube.com/Team30MJ. I have an off-season vlog.
Very cool.
You can see me checking in with Brian Miner in every other episode, or just vlogging how my off-season's going. We're already up to, I think, episode probably 6 by the time this comes
neat.
out.
Okay.
Yep. And I go through a full training program walkthrough if you want to see even more of this type of content. But if you want to learn how to design your own program, please go to 3dmusclejourney.com or 3dmjvault.com, and we've got a course called Bodybuilding Program Design. That's one of 20 plus courses we have in the vault. It's a membership-based subscription. You get access to all of them. And if you're interested in just kind of dipping your toe in, we got free courses.
Yeah.
See if you like it. If you don't, well,
sure.
My feelings will be hurt, but you'll learn something too.
Yeah, and the subscription's not that expensive, is it? How much is it roughly?
It's not bad at all. It's roughly about $80 a year if you want to.
Oh, geez.
Do that.
But
yeah.
you can do a monthly for how much?
You can. It's I think it's only $25 right now.
Yeah, guys, I highly recommend that. Get in there, get the free videos going. If you really like them, just pay for a month and do a deep dive. And if you need more after a month, buy another month. But if you need more and you want to stick around, because you guys always update it,
Absolutely.
Always more videos, always more knowledge. Science is ever changing. And then so you just buy the year and it's a fucking steal.
Yeah,
So,
and as we add more videos, the prices go up just to reflect the work we put into it.
that was fucked up.
But if you lock in whatever time you come in at, so the people who came in when we had like 6 videos, they're getting a pretty good deal.
Pretty fucking good deal.
Yeah.
Guys, give that some thought. And remember, Eric wants a gold-plated bathtub and shower and is really quite poor with that one, so buy stuff.
I actually just want a bathtub, period.
I want a shower somewhere.
I can shower, I want to know what a
Eric
bath is
lives
like.
in the street. Buy his products, please. See you guys next time.